Hey, Patrick.
Hey, Michael J.
Man, Core Set 2020 results are already showing up on MTGO.
Yeah, the Standard League gave us our first taste. I mean, obviously, this isn't like as big as like a Grand Prix or SCG Open yet, but this is still our first glimpse. And seeing what kind of decks and archetypes and new cards are showing up in 5.0 League decks is definitely providing some interesting food for thought for seeing where the format's starting.
Yeah, what's amazing to me is how creative some of these decks are. Like, just, for such a short period of time with the set appearing on MTGO, like, there's just amazing ideas that are already being explored. Like, completely, like, different explorations even within the same colors.
Yeah, I mean, in nowhere is that as pronounced, I think, than the Simic. Like, the fact that there's like 6 new Simic decks at the same time, and they're like meaningfully different from each other.
Completely different. Like, their crossover is Hinterland Harbor and Temple of Mystery.
For the most part, some of them are not even on Temple of Mystery. It just because of the not wanting tap lands. But like, the first one of these, and man, there are a lot of these, but the first one of these that kind of jumps out at me, it's one of the most exciting. It's this Omniscience deck. I mean, man. So the way it capitalizes on Flood of Tears, and Flood of Tears is a upheaval variant, a new upheaval variant that's 4 blue sorcery. Return all non-land permanents to their owner's hands. If you return 4 or more non-token permanents you control this way, you may put a permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield. And so the idea in this list is that you have a bunch of cheap little permanents that are not like requiring the same investment. It's not like you need to get 4, Sarah Angels down or something. The permanents that you can bounce here are also good to just replay for their enters the battlefield triggers. Like our Arboreal Grazer is obviously accelerating you to a quicker Flood of Tears, and even though bouncing the Grazer is not the biggest game, it is something, and the Arboreal Grazer is the type of card that it just doesn't draw a lot of heat. So it could just sit and play and be one of your permanents, and if your opponent kills it, you're not even sad anyway.
I mean, it's just great in this deck. You play first turn Arboreal Grazer, and they just drop like Temple of Mystery on the first turn with your extra land drop, and then you just play like a second turn Narset and have an 0-3 blocker for it already. Like, that's pretty fantastic, right?
Maybe. Arboreal Grazer is a very polarizing card. Not everybody considers it fantastic.
It's not like a good card in the same way that I don't know, Nissa is a good card, but it serves a very Llanowar Elf kind of function, but is an excellent defender for its mana cost.
Yeah, it's also a lot better against Goblin Chain Whirler.
The thing that made me a convert is how much better it is against Elite Guard Mage and Thief of Sanity. Because it's flabbergasting how this terrible little 1-drop that actually already got its money, befuddles such powerful 3 and 4 casting cost cards.
So, Leafkin Druid, I don't know how often you're going to be able to get the double green from having 4 more creatures, but I bet it comes up because you just start stacking some of these. It's got 2 real big advantages, though. The first is that a 0-3 just makes it a reasonable blocker, a little more durable. It's just contributes to the whole sticking around on the table so that you can get a Flood of Tears going. But also, perhaps even more importantly, it's an elemental.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's just an elemental.
Right, which makes it particularly attractive with Risen Reef, which is the Coiling Oracle variant that we've talked about, where for a mana more than Coiling Oracle, you get a Coiling Oracle, but if you play any more elementals, you get to keep going. Yeah. And then, it might seem like, oh my God, there's just only 8 elementals, right? But the ability to dig to them so hard with things like Tamiyo, and then the fact that you can like bounce and replay them, that does matter. And then besides, I don't know, like if you I don't know how many times you need to trigger the Risen Reef, you know?
Yeah, I think I think that you were on the right track with the Leafkin Druid. Like I think like that guy's never gonna tap for two, but the Risen Reef, just its presence in the deck, either it just helps you dig a little bit if you play it like on I don't know turn two or turn three, or it just gives you a way to get ahead once you're starting to loop, because all you need is anything that gives you some kind of an advantage that's a permanent. It can be like an urban utopia, it can be a risen reef, or it can be a gifted paradise. As long as it's a permanent, you're like near infinite automatically in this deck.
Right, because I mean, a big part of what you're really trying to do here is get to a spot where you can eventually flood of tears, where you have 4 non-land permanents or more. And in addition to those creatures we were talking about, the low investment creatures, you've obviously got planeswalkers, but even Narset is definitely a planeswalker that lives more than most. But you've got Urban Utopia and Gift of Paradise. Gift of Paradise, obviously, it's a lot harder for people to deal with in either one of these enchantments, but it gives you 3 life on the way in, and Urban Utopia gives you an extra card on the way in, so that you've got these extra benefits while you're stockpiling permanents that are low investment and not exactly good to try to remove. But the big hit is once you flood a tears, you get to put down Omniscience. And it might seem like, oh, like who cares, right? Like you got your 10 drop down, but how much are you even saving? And I think the real key here is the fact that you actually save a ton because you get to keep playing all your card draw spells for free.
Well, if you have,
including your planeswalkers,
like if you have Tameo, right? If you just have, like, assume you have like 4 permanents, 4 sorted permanents, but you have Tameo anywhere, right? You just play Tameo for free with the Omniscience in play, and then you just rebuy your Flood of Tears, right? So then you just cast your Flood of Tears again for free because you have the Omniscience, and then pick up the permanents that you play.
So you're actually looping all the way.
Yeah, so anything, like all you have to have is like, it could be like super garbagey. It could be like 2 Leafkin Druids, Tameo, and Gift of Paradise, right? If that's all you have, doesn't matter. You have infinite life, right? So, but anything like that draws a card, if it's like Risen Reef or Urban Utopia, you just go through your entire deck. So
Yep.
you basically you do it on that turn.
And you can gain a boundless amount of life from Gift of Paradise.
Absolutely, right? So even if you don't go infinite in terms of like...
Well, no, you do.
You can just gain infinite life, right? Like you don't.
I mean, you also
have to
deck your opponent with Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, right? Because once you draw your whole deck, you find your 1 Jace, Wielder of Mysteries.
Yep.
And then you can just each time mill your opponent for 2. No, you just mill yourself and you run out of cards.
Zero cards,
you kill
you draw a card with no cards in your deck. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm actually a little curious why this deck even has like an overflowing insight. I mean, that seems a little fancy to me.
I mean, maybe it's another card to make Omniscience good when you don't have Tameo. Maybe it's another thing to make Ramping good, and maybe it's a backup victory condition.
Yeah, I get it's kind of backup victory conditioning. The thing that I was thinking about this deck, even though I really have these Simic decks and Risen Reef on the brain, I wasn't even sure, like, maybe I'd rather just have a third color and just play Teferi 3 instead of Risen Reef and Leafkin Druid. What do you think about that? Look, Teferi is such a good little kind of insurance policy on a deck like this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're necessarily pushing the Elementals thing hard enough here to make it really that impressive. I would love to see what a version looks like with some Teferi action.
The thing that makes me so excited about this deck in Pika Power's deck really is, of all the decks that were revealed so far from this 5-0 list, my favorite one. It's because in the previous format we had these decks that were defined by having really powerful end games, and that was like exemplified by maybe Dreadhorde, Command the Dreadhorde, right? So at the top you're like, all right, it's a really, really powerful spell. I can just get whatever. I can get like all the creatures. I can get all the planeswalkers. I'm going to pay a little bit of life, but I'm going to have a huge advantage. And then we had this spell that was even bigger. And, there's a different Simic Risen Reef deck that super focuses on being able to tap creatures for a ton of mana to cast Mass Manipulation, right? So that deck could go even further over the top over a Dreadhorde deck. This deck goes over the top of everything, right? Like, you can Dreadhorde, whatever. You can steal not all my permanents. You can steal a bunch of my permanents, whatever. I'm going to get everything back. I'm going to reset your board. I'm going to steal all your mana. And if you're really unlucky, I'm just going to loop you to death with Tamiyo this turn.
I mean, do you think that having the actual loop is worth it compared to something like Zack Attack's version that, it's also just Simic, and it's got the whole Risen Reef, Leafkin, Druid action, but instead of the Flood and Omniscience, it has Mass Manipulation and Hydroid Crassus, with Finale of Revelation as additional high end, and Leyline of Abundance as the new sort of engine, with Llanowar Elves, Paradise Druid as additional, and Incubation Druid for additional mana creatures.
So I think this. So look, I don't know what the win percentages on these decks are, right? So there was one copy of each in the 5.0 cohort so far. So I don't know what it's going to look like once the real punching and kicking in tournaments starts happening. But I think Zack Attack 23's deck is like a firm number 2 on power level. This deck has got Leyline of Abundance to set up, and then a ton of mana creatures, right? It's got Incubation Druid, Leafkin Druid, Llanowar Elves, and Paradise Druid, right? So if you got Leyline of Abundance in play to begin with, you are, I don't know how early you can be spitting out Nissa and huge Hydroid Crassus or whatever. So this is powerful. You also have the ability to cast some insane Finale of Revelation, right? That's the other thing that's great about this deck. You can easily get that X to where you want it to be because of all the mana creatures in Leyline. But this deck is very, very go over the topable, right? So it's got Mass Manipulation, so it's good at stealing other people's key permanents. But for example, like, what's it going to do if you've got, I don't know, some kind of a Wrath effect, Cleansing Nova type effect, or just the tiers, right? Just like, you can establish your board, but then they just bounce all your stuff. Like, I think the other deck is just, if you get Tamiyo and you're like, use Tamiyo to dig for Omniscience or Tears, and they don't get you, like, you're just going to get them the next turn. I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the head-to-head, certainly. What do you think of going the other way, then? Flood of Tears, but really, instead of the Omniscience plan, really building around elementals and pushing Risen Reef to the max. Like Samuel Grabner's list featured 3 Flood of Tears and the whole Risen Reef action, but instead of going so big, uses Omnath, Locust of the Royal, and Cavalier of Thorns. And notably, Wild Growth Walker is an elemental, and so you got the Merfolk Branchwalker Jadelight Ranger package for more enters the battlefield action, and then finally Chandra, Acolyte of Flames, which is obviously a filthy combo with Risen Reef.
Yeah, so there were 2 different kind of teamer decks that were playing Risen Reef that were revealed in these 5.0 lists. And the thing that was odd to me is they didn't even agree on which Chandra to play. So Samuel Grabner's deck, it has this really obvious combo, right? Which is Chandra and Risen Reef, and Omnath is probably great in this deck. But I kind of didn't get what Flood of Tears was doing here, right? So, look, the other Flood of Tears deck with kind of that Tamiyo loop, I'm like, very clear.
Wait, isn't Flood of Tears amazing here?
It's not the same thing, right? Like, I don't know.
It doesn't need to be the same thing. This deck is way better when it's just playing a backup plan. But, like, Flood of Tears seems excellent here. You've got so many creatures that have enters the battlefield triggers, right? Like, you get to just, when you Flood of Tears, you can flip a ton of cards from Cavalier of Thorns, and between Cavalier of Thorns and Risen Reef and your accelerators and just how many lands you're putting into play with the Risen Reef in the first place, and then how many extra cards you get to draw from Jade Light Ranger and Merfolk Branchwalker and the Life from Wild Growth Walker. I mean, you just get so much value. It's like a Revelark thing, right? Like, you're not going infinite, but Revelark can be good even if you're just like getting a Venser and a Mole Drifter.
So you're thinking in this deck, like, this deck just plays a legit game of Magic, right? You're a good creature deck. You have this elemental sub theme. Omnath is probably great in this deck, right?
You also just have so much card advantage.
Yeah, yeah. And then,
so people's removal is going to be like very not the greatest against you.
But if you go Flood of Tears in this deck, Flood of Tears is like essentially an upheaval tog. Is that what happens? Right? So you bounce everything, all your stuff, all their stuff, but then you finish it by like dropping a 5/6 or something along those lines.
No, I think you just have a lot of mana a lot of the time, and you just do a lot of great stuff. Like, it's like you picked up your stuff, they picked up their stuff, but you have like several land more in play than they do. And they can probably play 2 cards on their next turn, whereas you can play like a couple cards this turn, many cards next turn, and draw 6 extra cards from all your triggers.
Huh. I think I'm going to have to actually play with this a little bit to see. Like, I think I'm just, like, not imagining, you know, the same sequence on Flood of Tears as you, because, I mean, I almost feel like I'd have to be, like, 6 ahead already in order to be in a great spot there. But maybe...
Really? Why? Yeah. Like, you can just replay Omnith and go upstairs with his damage ability. You don't play him first, you play him last, but I'm saying on your next turn.
Yeah? No, I understand what you're saying. I'm just having a hard time imagining having so many resources, but maybe I'm wrong. Like, it seems to me like the front end of this deck is very intuitive, right? Like, Wild Growth Walker in an Elementals deck, it's really cool, right? Like, it's really exciting to me, and it probably also encourages good play. Like, so you're less likely to just expose your Wild Growth Walker on turn 2 and then get no value from it because it got removed, because you have an incentive to play it after your Risen Reef. So that part of the deck, I get it really a lot. It's just the post-Flood of Tears, I don't know. I think it looks to me like the Hammer, but if you think it's just kind of like reset with significant grinding value, that's kind of what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, I think that's the theory I'm espousing. My confidence is low that it plays out that way, but that's sort of what it looks like to me.
Because, I mean, it seems like a fine get-out-of-jail-free card, right? So if you're behind, you know, Flood of Tears into Cavalier of Thorns sounds fantastic to me, right? Or even, like, Flood of Tears into Chandra. That's probably okay. But, like, you know, the idea that I'm going to play, like, 4 or 5 permanents is, I don't know. I think it could certainly happen, especially if you've had an unmolested Risen Reef for a few turns. But I don't know. I feel like people are doing stuff with their mana right back in your face.
Sure. I like Fry in the sideboard, by the way.
Yeah, the game has changed, right? So Fry, can't be countered. Not that people are countering spells anymore, but it can't be countered. But it does 5.
Yeah, I mean, this is just better than Combust, right?
It's an instant. It can't be counted. It's pretty good. It's certainly... I think that this changes, like, the incentives in Standard a lot. Like, a certain Dawnbringer is a lot worse than it was a week ago.
Yeah, I mean, sure, but I guess what I mean is we already have a precedent, right? Like, Combust was a big hit, and the only advantage Combust had was that the damage can't be the damage can't be prevented. The advantage to Fry is that it can hit Planeswalkers.
Oh yeah.
Hitting planeswalkers is so much bigger of a deal than not being able to be prevented. Who plays damage prevention?
Oh yeah. I mean, especially when some of those planeswalkers include Tameo, Teferi, other Teferi, etc. A lot of the key planeswalkers that you might want to hit are white or blue.
Yeah, definitely. To me, I think this Fry seems unbelievable, and its numbers line up. Like it's the right numbers for the job, you know. So I think we're going to see a ton of Fry over the next year and a half.
What do you think about Samuel Graebner's version of Temur Risen Reef versus the other version, the one with the big Chandra?
uh, God, I don't know. I got such a soft spot for Awakened Inferno, Chandra the Awakened Inferno. So Ticket Tappers list doesn't feature the Flood. Instead has one Mass Manipulation and two Chandra Awakened Infernos for going big, but has this added dimension of 4 Nissa Who Shakes the World.
Yeah, it's I guess it's weird to have like the Nissa Who Shakes the World with only in quotes one mass manipulation, but like a lot of the rest of this deck is quite similar, right? Like it's Omnath, it's mana acceleration creatures, it's Risen Reef. The thing that I'm just scratching my head really over is like, what is up with the Awakened Inferno in this deck? Like, I feel like
I don't know. It's weird.
If there's ever a deck for the 3 casting cost Chandra, it's the one that has 4 Risen Reefs, right? Like, Chandra Awakened Inferno is clearly a great card. It just seems a little out of place here.
I almost wonder if it's a typo.
Yeah? All right.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like the other Chandra is the one you want.
Yeah, I don't know why I'd want this one, right? It's got a little.
I mean, it's a dope card. Maybe it's just so dope. The use of Nissa Who Shakes the World. Man, so we're seeing a lot of that here. Obviously, the Finale of Revelation Mass Manipulation deck we talked about earlier. Are you buying what? Actually, I guess it can't be a typo, by the way. Sorry, just to backtrack for a second. Because there's another copy. Ariana also has 2 copies of Chandra Awakened Inferno. And this build is a little bit different, featuring lightning strikes, shocks, lava coils. So a lot of cheap removal, but still the Risen Reef, Omnath, Living Locust, Leafkin Druid, but with Creeping Trailblazer.
Yeah.
Because this list is just a straight red-green elementals list with the exception of splashing Omnath and Risen Reef.
Yeah, I love this version. I think the Creeping Trailblazer is going to end up stock in elementals. Like, I feel like this deck is like, it's almost like a Gruul aggro deck, right? Like Creeping Trailblazer is like the offensive 2-drop. Living Twister obviously has like weird stats for an aggro creature, but it's very on theme. And you've got like Lava Coil. Like,
oh, I know why. Oh God, dude, we're silly.
Yeah.
Chandra's amazing in both of these decks. She does 3 damage to each non-elemental creature.
Oh well, there you go.
God, we are going to get it this week.
Hey, it's new lists. We're exploring them. Why not all the Chandras then?
She costs a lot, dude.
Yeah, the 3 casting cost one is too sick though.
Oh, I see. A spread. Yeah, sure. That seems dope to me. Plus, the 3 cost one can buff the 6 cost one.
Yeah, there's all kinds of synergies. I think that it's weird that like Creeping Trailblazer is not in the same list as
the 3-drop Chandra.
Yeah, like, I mean, like, wouldn't you want to be like smashing with like buffed elemental hasters?
Yeah, I mean, generally. So as much as I love all these Nissa Who Shakes the World decks, dude, maybe I'm a sucker, but I keep looking at Nightpack Ambusher. I am so the type. So Urza 2109's Simic Flash deck has several interesting things going on here. And this is, in the past we've seen things like Blue-White Flash, But to see blue-green Flash, and this is a list with 20 Flash creatures. 20 Flash creatures. I mean, in reality, I think this deck has some amount of resemblance to fairies almost. And then, in addition to the 20 Flash creatures, we've got 4 Essence Scatter, 4 Sinister Sabotage, 2 Syncopate for 10 permission spells. And then the last 6 slots just going to 3 Unsummons and 3 Mu Yangling Skydancer.
So it's weird that Mu Yanling Skydancer is like super the odd man out or odd planeswalker out, right? It's like the only spell in the deck that's played at slow speed, right?
Yeah, but I think the theory here is that Mu Yangling is just so good.
So I think the general game plan of this deck
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
is just to do nothing, right? That you just Essence Scatter,
No!
Syncopate their
No,
guy.
no. You get something down that's going to present an advantage, and then you end up in a spot where you can't, like your opponent can't play into you, like a fairies thing. Like you know, how, like if you got a Bitter Blossom, your opponent's got to play into you. They can't just sit there and let you Bitter Blossom them.
Yeah.
So this deck gets down, like say you've got a, I mean, okay, so if you can just stick a Mu Yangling, the fact that Mu Yangling immediately goes up to 4, it's not hard to imagine that she stabilizes the board between her +2 ability, the impact it's having. All you need to do is be riding Mu Yangling for a while, and you're getting a real advantage without having to spend any mana. Your opponent can't just let you sit there with it. If you get to untap with her, you've gotten a 3-cost 4/4 flyer and kept a planeswalker. And so but if you look at the other cards in the deck too, you get so many advantage. You have so many cards that can just get an advantage that starts accruing. Like Nightpack Ambusher is the epitome of this. If you leave all your mana open, you ship the turn. If they don't play into your Frilled Mystic, you can drop the Nightpack Ambusher, untap, and then since you're not doing anything on your turn anyway, you just get to make a wolf, and now you've got 7 power across 2 bodies.
So you're just
you just protect it.
Always making a wolf in this deck because you never do anything on your turn unless it's a weird situation, right?
Right. And so then you can just be making a 3/3 every turn like it's Bitter Blossom. And that's not even counting if you flashed out a second Ambusher because they really stack in a powerful way.
Wow! So you're basically making 2 4/4s per turn.
Right, like the first Ambusher comes down, and you have 7 on your end step. But on their turn, if you flash down another Ambusher, it's not just that you have 14 already. It's that when you untap, you'll be up to 22 power across 5 bodies.
I have to apologize, Patrick. I thought that Omniscience deck was my favorite deck. This might be my favorite deck. This Ambusher tech seems insanity.
Ambusher Frilled Mystic is such an incredible fork, and you even get to cover both sides of the bluff with Spectral Sailor. So Spectral Sailor, 1-cost, 1/1 flying flash, 3 to blue, draw a card. So it's really easy to find a spot to stick this, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, you might not... This isn't a deck where you just need to get it down as fast as possible and put a Curious Obsession on it. This is the type of deck that you could wait till turn 3. Your opponent taps out for a 3-drop, you Essence Scatter it, flash down the Sailor, untap, drop a 4th land. Now your opponent's forked. If they don't do anything, you can just draw a card, right, each turn. But if they play into you, you could just Frilled Mystic whatever they play into you with, or perhaps they play into you and so now they don't have mana open, so that when you flash down the Ambusher, now you have a much bigger board position, and then you ship the turn again with all your mana untapped so that you can protect the Ambusher. And now your advantage is only growing.
I think that Spectral Sailor is like a format. Defining is the wrong word, but like it's like a card that's super meaningful in Core Set 2020 Standard. Not only because of the kind of play that you were talking about, but like imagine it's just like turn 5, right? So even if you've done nothing, like maybe you just counterspelled them 4 times, right? It's turn 5, and you're just like, Spectral Sailor, use it. Like, it's like a Whispers of the Muse already, and you've got a clock, right? So
Right,
this,
and you save mana.
yeah, like this is a 20 turn clock, but it's a clock, and you can't really like let the blue deck just draw an extra card when they're full of like potentially 2 casting cost counter spells.
Well, it's not just that it's a clock. It's actually a shocking amount of pressure because there's going to be spots in which you're going to be able to take down planeswalkers on one loyalty.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's like or just keep a planeswalker from ticking up.
I think that like this deck is going to be a really, really interesting kind of heat check on the format. Like powerhouse kind of battle cruiser Magic decks, including blue ones, have been like riding this. Well, we've got Teferis or whatever. We're not worried about counter spells for months, and I mean like a lot of those kind of Super Friends decks are a house of cards, and if you get Frilled Mystic once, just lose the game. Right? They're just not used to investing like 5 mana for a key permanent, getting it Frilled Mystic, and then having the Mystic just attack their other planeswalker. Now they have no game.
Yeah, and 14 counterspells is so much more than we've been seeing out of anybody recently.
And Unsummon is a counterspell on this deck, right? Like, you're like, pick up my Frilled Mystic, get you again.
So, Merfolk Trickster is actually a pretty dope form of removal as well, and just can play a tempo game as well. But Brineborn Cutthroat, I think, is actually an easy one to overlook, but it actually, if you think it through, how many +1/+1 counters do you have to put on your 2/1 flash before you've gotten your money's worth? 1?
I don't know. 0 is probably okay. Yeah,
because
this is a quality card.
So on your opponent's second turn, you could flash down Brineborn Cutthroat, untap, and now if they play into you, so you're hitting them, but if they play anything, you can just counter it, and now your guy is growing. You're just starts, or you could do something like, say, on your opponent's turn, go surprise, flash down Brineborn Cutthroat, and then flash down Spectral Sailor, so that you untap and you immediately already have a counter on the Cutthroat, and now you have all your mana again.
Oh, I mean, like the 3 mana sequence where you're like Brineborn Cutthroat and Spectral Sailor in one turn, play your 4th land. That's just like.
And then they play something, and you just go Frill Mystic.
Oh.
Or you just tap it. You play Merfolk Trickster, tap it, and then put another counter on your guy and play one other card, like unsummon their other blocker. I don't know.
So I'm satisfied in the idea that this deck, in terms of its concept, this is like a. I'm already in the mental zone where this is could potentially be a special strategy. What about the mana base? I don't know. Am I spoiled? But 6 forests, 8 island is like an eyesore to me. Is this improvable?
What's wrong with 6 forests, 8 islands? You got 10 duels.
I hate it.
You just want more Temple of Mysteries?
I think I do. There's like
I could be in for more Temple of Mysteries. It's not like this deck has so many ones.
Yeah, there's like just Spectral Sailor. And, I mean, I guess you might want to play it on turn 1, but it has Flash already. It's like it's gonna get its money at some point.
I think the issue is just drawing 2 Temple of Mysteries is kind of a bummer. But I like more Temple of Mysteries. I would try more temples here.
Yeah, I think I would start with 4 and see what was what. So you're a big fan of Mu Yanling?
Yeah, I like Mu Yanling. Yeah, I think that it's also a thing that gives you. It's like when you have fairies and you get Jace Beleren down.
Oh,
like Jace Beleren just really overperforms in the fairy deck, but like here it's doing some amount of being removal. Like it's keeping something on lockdown, but it's kind of drawing extra cards. They just happen to be 0 mana 4/4 flyers.
Do you think you're ever going to get to the -8 with Mu Yanling? That's like weird if you ever do.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's that weird, because I think there's going to be spots where people have removal and you don't want to give them a juicy target, and you only have to tick it up 3 times, and then you can ultimate.
Yeah, I think that's going to be.
It goes up so fast.
my achievement unlock that I'm going to try to go for this season is to get that -8.
Dude, it's. I think you're asking me. Do I ever think you're gonna activate? You know, that you're gonna ultimate Koth of the Hammer?
I
And
mean,
it's like, yeah, yeah. I think you're gonna ultimate Koth of the Hammer, and it's gonna be fantastic. But I don't think it's gonna be as rare as you might be thinking.
I ultimated uh, Nissa who shakes the world in Paper Magic like many times last season, and I was surprised the first time it happened. Right, and then I was surprised he didn't concede. Right, then I don't know. I just did it 3 more times that weekend.
That's life.
So, yeah, but it was like it was real exciting, and that's gonna be what I go for. And I think this Nightpack Ambusher is. I mean, it already looked like a pretty good card to me, but this whole all my guys have flash and I have a ton of counter spells is speaking to me.
Dude, I love the shifting Ceratops, by the way, in the sideboard.
Oh yeah, that's a quality card. I mean, like that card.
As a guy who played a lot of Scragnos back in the day,
Yeah.
wow, have we come a long way.
So here's the thing about shifting Ceratops. There was already a little controversy in the previous standard, right? Like the red 5-drop of choice was largely the Skargan Hellkite, right? Which is 4/4 with Riot, right? Might have haste, might be a little bit big. And then there was just kind of this contingent off to the side of some pretty good players, mind you, good players who were playing Charging Monstrosaur, which is, for 5 mana, in most ways much worse than a Hellkite, but that 5 power allowed it to just, hit the battlefield on turn 5 and then swing and kill the 5 casting cost Teferi, right, in one move. That's like the whole tension at 5 there. Shifting Ceratops has that whole game. It has 5 power for 5 because it has the ability to gain haste. It's weird to me. Like this, like that they would. It's like I don't know. It's like there was a riddle that they made for standard. And they're like, nah, we solved it for you already. You know where I'm coming from for this? Like the card's too good.
I don't know about that, but it seems pretty good. Man, is it good against Teferi though?
It's dumb against a fairy.
It's good in the mirror.
It's good in the
Good in the mirror.
Oh yeah,
protection.
I guess if you
Can't be countered. Protection from blue. Can't be hit with the Merfolk Trickster.
How do you beat it? I guess you just put a wolf.
Aether Gust.
Well, you
so
can't
Aether,
if it's already in play.
No, not if it's already in play, but you can when it's on the stack. Choose target spell or permanent that's red or green. Its owner puts it on the top or bottom of their library.
I think we might have to play 4 Aether Gust.
Aether Gust seems great.
3 Aether Gust is it's not aware of the impact of Urza 2109's own innovative deck list.
So there's yet another Simic deck, and this is back in the Nissa Who Shakes the World camp a little bit. But Pole's Wilderness Reclamation Nexus of Fate deck, a lot of stuff we've seen before, the Tamio Narset editions, but it makes powerful use of Drawn from Dreams. 2+2 Drawn from Dreams. The 2 blue, look at the top 7, put 2 in your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library.
So when we were digging through time, how much did you typically pay?
I think the most common number for me was 2, and the second most common number was like 4, maybe 5.
Yeah, I think the most common number for me was not 2. I always had trouble getting it down that low, and I think I would have been pretty happy at 4.
Yeah, being a sorcery is an important difference, though.
Oh yes, that is. I mean, I guess it's a different era though, because like back then we played a lot more permission spells in our dig through time decks, and instant speed removal. But this is more of a set me up deck, right?
Well, this one also just when you are ripping through your deck so hard, because when you Drawn from Dreams, your odds of finding a Nexus of Fate or a Root Snare are so high.
Yeah,
I could imagine this being kind of busted. It's hard that everything costs 4.
Well,
but
when you have Wilderness Reclamation and you have Nissa Who Shakes the World, like having a high concentration of casting cost 4 and above, it's different than in regular Magic, right? Like you're very commonly going to be in a situation where you can cast 2 or more 4s per turn, and so you could easily just draw from Dreams, and then still have like Blink of an Eye or Chemist's Insight mana at the end of your turn.
True. So, does this list do anything for you?
I mean, it would be very foolhardy for me to dismiss this kind of list. I mean, after all, it was the same archetype that was able to take down Mythic Championship 3. You were one of the first people who just was like, look, man, this card Wilderness Reclamation is a format defining, paradigm altering kind of thing. But I just think the other Simic decks and other Teamer decks are just so much more exciting. Like I just want to try Omniscience. I just want to try Flash. I want to try, digging through my deck with the Elemental Squad. This is just it's like old hat. I played against this so many times.
So, what do you think of the use of Mu Yanling Skydancer in Mono Blue? Like, I know you already have Tempest Djinn, so you might be at risk of getting a little crowded at 3, but like, I mean, so the list that Leaf 33 played with Pteramander, Siren Storm Tamer, Spectral Sailor, Tempest Djinn, Merfolk Trickster, Mu Yangling Skydancer, Charter Course, Opt, Spell Pierce, Wizards, Rhetoric, Curious Obsession, 20 Islands.
So I actually thought that card just fit perfectly into this strategy. Like, you really want Tempest Djinn on 3 in some matchups, Mono Red, for example. Mu Yanling is not perfect, but it's not that far off, right? So
if you squint, it sure does resemble a Tempest Djinn.
Yeah, like, you just get it down, and then you just, like, turn off their Gitu Lava Runner for a turn, or, you chump block with your Merfolk Trickster you already played or whatever. All of a sudden, you've got a 4/4, right? I think it's exactly what this deck wants. And like, the redundancy is really, really meaningful in matchups where if you don't draw at least one Tempest Djinn, if not 2, you're going to lose, right? So it just gets you that. And not for nothing, Spectral Sailor is, I think, maybe at his peak in this deck, right? Like Spectral Sailor, great in that kind of Simic Wolf deck, but I think he was just made for bringing back.
See, I actually I don't know, maybe. I think it's obviously great here, but I'm not sure. I could imagine Spectral Sailor actually being better in the Wolf deck. The value over replacement, Spectral Sailor here compared to any other flyer, I don't think it's actually as much value over replacement as it is with how powerful of a dimension it adds to the ambush, the Simic Flash deck. But I don't know. I
think it's probably great in both decks.
Definitely. Card's fantastic.
You can't downplay the fact that you get Spectral Sailor on the first turn in this deck, and it's just like this obvious setup card for Charter Course or for Curious Obsession plus Spell Pierce, right? Like, it's like, I guess there have always been cards that had that kind of job description in Mono Blue Tempo, but Spectral Sailor is clearly a leg up on those cards, or it wouldn't have taken their slot.
Sure. Yeah. There's a, in contrast to the Simic sort of Flash deck, there's this new Azorius deck, the Spirits deck. But unlike previous Spirits deck, this one actually plays on your main phase a lot more than most. So this is Dungeon Geist, Imperial Eagle, Hanged Executioner, Remorseful Cleric, Spectral Sailor, Supreme Phantom. So you've got 2 lords from the Empyrean Eagle and the Phantom. And then you've got a little bit of utility. Hanged Executioner and Dungeon Geist can help with interaction. But really, you're just trying to leverage favorable wins as another Anthem, and then just a few tempo plays.
Yeah, this feels like a week 1 deck to me. I think like it's not that it's not good. It's that I think the Simic deck accomplishes a similar thing, kind of not just more flamboyantly, but like with a greater upside. Like
but definitely more flamboyantly.
I mean, way more flamboyantly, right? But like a lot of these cards just kind of stink by themselves in this deck, right? Like this deck doesn't have nearly as much cover, and then you just I don't know, just like oh, I played a 2/3 for 3, or it has basically no text if nobody else is on the battlefield. Like, it's not exciting in the same way. I mean, it's not just an emotional thing. Like it's just your guy's going to get killed and they're going to attack you for 4.
Yeah, I mean, I'm super all about the Simic Flash deck, but there is one more Tameo Collector of Tales deck, though. This one is, it's a loose use of the term Simic, but this Kethis the Hidden Hand Simic deck, piloted by Ruji. It's really at its heart, it's a Command the Dreadhorde deck. But I can't help but just kind of gawk at Kethis the Hidden Hand.
When I saw this deck the first time, the first thing that jumped out at me was like, oh, Sorin Vengeful Bloodlord is back. The second thing that came out to me was like, oh, what a cool deck. I bet he didn't have time to get in all the Kethis the Hidden Hands that he wanted. Because like Kethis seems awesome in this deck, right?
Dude, if you Tameo, you're just going to be stocking Kethis so hard.
Yeah, like this is a 4 of Kethis deck if I've ever seen one.
Kethis seems amazing here.
Yeah, so I feel like you just didn't get him in time, like before the league started. Like I think that we're definitely going to see decks of this type that have more copies of that guy because like everything you want is they're all coming together here. Like even like the Jade Light Ranger Wildgrowth Walker half of this deck is just it's fantastic for setup. And the Kethis half is like, well, it's not a half, it's one Kethis right now, but the prospective future Kethis half is so rich on the other side.
Dude, you even get to exile the extra Kethises? Yeah. Yeah, Kethis seems awesome. I don't know about this mix of guys compared to anything else, but like seems fine.
Yeah, I mean it's just inheriting a lot of the incumbent Command the Dreadhorde.
Yeah, but why Vraska Golgari Queen?
Because there's just like some guys to throw away, right? Like there's
but can't we do better? Well, first of all, how many 4-cost cards are we going to play? Like, why don't we have some 5s? We've got this. Like, once we have all these Kethises, like, do we really just not want any big Teferis?
I think, actually, now that I look at it, you're right. Vraska's actually at a low point in this deck. The acceleration is just, like, 2 Paradise Druids? It's not even a good Vraska.
Well, no, Kethis.
Okay. There's one Kethis.
Which doesn't work with Vraska. As well, it doesn't get you, because Kethis is about the 3 into 5.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, Vraska's not maximized here.
No, and I actually just don't want to sacrifice that many of these things.
I mean, you could sacrifice them just to gain more value with Command the Dreadhorde in a turn or 2.
Yeah. Yep, you could.
I think I would want to see some legendary sorceries, right? Like, don't you think it's time for some legendary sorceries?
I don't know, man. Command the Dreadhorde, I think, is like a better legendary sorcery. It could be, though. I mean, maybe you can play the black one. It's kind of rough. Or you wanted to take extra turns. That's a hot one.
I don't know. I just think, like, this deck has 13 legendary planeswalkers and Kethis to start, right? Like, it's not asking a lot to have one of them on hand. I don't know which ones I want yet, but I'm gonna peruse the Gatherer after we record this podcast. I think it might be time. I mean, granted,
that's cool. I can see it.
The Simic deck is just going to counter me and then attack for 7 with its wolves, and I'm gonna deserve that, right? But
true,
I will have thought about legendary sorceries first.
Yeah. Do you like any of these dinosaur decks?
Yes.
Like Breeze packing a Jund Dinosaurs deck, and there was another one that Ben the Mind Sculptor packing just straight Gruul with only the lightest dinosaur theme.
Yeah. I was actually pretty surprised that we didn't see the hatchling that you talked about because I thought that the hatchling combo would be awesome. Also, would have imagined that we would have seen some of the ranging raptor, but this I'm just looking at Barisa's deck for now to start. Marauding Raptor into Ripjaw Raptor is freaking awesome, right? Like that's pretty close to living the dream already. What do you think about Rotting Regisaur? Jury's a little out for me on that card. I think it's awesome, but I don't know if I would want a third color for it.
It's pretty intense to add a third color for it. It's also it's a little weird, like how much it makes your good draws even better. But like, I don't know, man. When you don't have the ability to give it haste, because like, I mean, I guess you do, right? Like, Odapec Huntmaster into Rotting Regisaur is actually pretty dope.
So here's the thing. Like, are there any other black cards at all in the main deck? Or it's just Rotting Regisaur?
Yeah. But I mean, Regisaur Alpha, too, for giving it haste. Because it's such the card you want to give haste to.
So, I guess
Dude, give it Trample with Colossus? Eh?
Yeah, I was thinking, like, you can't even elf it out on turn 2 in this deck, but maybe you don't want to.
I can't even anyway.
Right? Like, I guess elfing it on turn 2 stinks in most matchups.
Yeah, I think that you really just want to play a turn 2 Marauding Raptor or Odapec Huntmaster, and then turn 3 give them the rot.
Yeah, I think, like, Dinosaurs is going to be a legitimate contender in the upcoming format. But I don't think Jund is going to be the direction to go. I felt like Breeze wanted Duress more than anything else, and there's Duress in the sideboard here, and then he's like, I'll throw in Rotting Regisaur as well. I felt like the other Dinosaurs deck was kind of more natural. But
dude, if you just go turn 2, Huntmaster, turn 3 Marauding Raptor, it's like free, and then you can just play. I mean, hell, you could play 2 Rotting Regisaurs on the third turn. You can only give one of them haste, though. Anyway, you're saying the other one's more natural?
Yeah. Is there a good reason to play Domri's Ambush in this deck instead of Savage Stomp?
I mean, you could show off new cards.
It's not that new.
Yeah, no, hitting a Planeswalker is the thing. I actually like that.
Yeah?
I think that fighting a Planeswalker is like... It's just, I don't know how, it's so hard. Savage Stomp's like a better card in general. I just think there's going to be a lot of decks that just have so many Planeswalkers instead of creatures. And Domri's Ambush is like a meaningful option there, you know?
That's fair. It just seems to me like Savage Stomp is just such the natural card to play. It costs literally 50% of the mana.
Yeah, but it can't hit Planeswalkers, so I mean, like, I don't know. Are you bottlenecked on mana as much as you are stuck with dead cards in your hand?
No idea.
It's hard for me to get excited about a Domri's Ambush. It's just so medium. But part of the thing here is that this Ben the Mind Sculptor build, I mean, I don't know, it's still a Gruul Spellbreaker deck, right? I guess most of the stuff is legit to hit. Like there's definitely a lot of dinosaurs, but yeah, I don't know. I'd be into trying it for sure.
What do you think about this split of 3 charging Monstrosaurs and only 2 Regisaur Alphas at the 5? That seems a little unnatural to me.
Definitely, I like Regisaur Alpha so much more. Additionally, I like shifting Ceratops so much more.
Yeah, that's where I was kind of going. Like shifting Ceratops in a deck that can cast both is just better than charging Monstrosaur, unless you're fighting somebody else's. I don't know. It even trades with somebody else's charging Monstrosaur.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
fifth toughness is meaningless.
yeah. I'm not as big of a buyer on the charging monster store. I guess when you have like two marauding raptors, it's like meaningful that the charging monster sword could actually live through that. Whereas if you have two, like if you play with all shifting Ceratops and Regisaur Alpha, you can get stuck where you just can't have two marauding raptors in play at the same time.
I hadn't thought of that. I feel like once you play the deck a few times, that's just like a play pattern you have to internalize, though.
Yeah. Yep. Doesn't mean you have to be happy about it. What about the different mix though? This God, this particular Gruul Spellbreaker deck with Domri, instead of the dinosaurs, it has a Danto Vanguard, Tristani, and Aurelia by Masahiko.
Yeah.
What's going on with this list, man?
Deck was super weird.
There's just like
it also has Captain Lannery Storm.
right.
Like,
Well,
what am I Lannery storming into? Like, I guess like Captain. If I'm like, all right,
Nissa who shakes the world. You've got four forests.
Turn 3 Nissa who shakes the world.
You got four forests, man.
I guess I could get a fast Tristani Discordant that way also. Yeah,
These are all good cards. It's just I don't know that I understand maybe I'm missing it, but they're just kind of some cards.
I think a lot of these are pretty medium cards.
I respect somebody who just has some cards they want to play and plays them.
Yeah, sure. Adonto Vanguard, Aurelia. All right, we're looking at Brad Nelson from like 8 months ago. I'm in, and then like just add another color or two. Add another first turn color.
These are some fine threats. It's just there's a lot of Tristan Thompsons on this team. Like I'm wondering where the LeBrons and Kyries are. There's a lot of Tristan Thompsons.
Look, man, Tristani Discordant is way more of a Channing Frye.
Yeah,
that is like a 7-foot tall shooting guard if I've ever seen one.
Dude. So, are there? I mean, you're my go-to expert for red cards these days. Until I go to work and talk to Patrick Sullivan. But ZNT's mono red deck, is there much to like here? I mean, Chandra old school, not old school, I guess at this point. Chandra 8 instead of Chandra 9, 10, or 11, or 12. Chandra Fire Artesian coming back again, but split with Experimental Frenzy, which is a thing we've seen a number of times. Not really a lot of new tech, but the use of Chandra Acolyte of Flames in the sideboard?
There's also Leyline of Combustion in the sideboard.
Well, that one's pretty self-explanatory. I think Leyline of Combustion makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
I'm trying to follow what the Chandra Acolyte of Flames does.
The thing that was more surprising to me about this deck than anything else was that it was the only red deck in the 5-0s. I thought that given the popularity of like a lot of the new cards and Risen Reefs, that Shocks and Chain Whirlers were going to be at a premium. Because they're like, they're so good at interacting with some of these new cards. So that was what was surprising to me. Like, I think this build is pretty uninspired, right? Like, I don't know. I was really dissatisfied actually in the transition from more of the Spark Standard to Core Set 2020 Standard. Like, I feel like the last format wasn't even solved yet. Like, are we really at the point where like, all right, a 20 mountain 5 4-drop card drawing aggro deck is where we want red to land? And like, it just seems I might be wrong.
Dude, light up the stage to fix your mana.
Yeah, it does not seem to me like this is the correct logical conclusion of the strategy. So I don't know. I could totally be wrong with that conclusion, but it looks weird, and I don't know why I would want Chandra Acolyte of Flame in the sideboard. I guess like if you're against somebody who has like a ton of creature removal, like spitting 2 damage a turn at them is good. Now, obviously, it has 4 loyalty to start, and the ability to like buy back 2 lightning strikes is pretty good, right? So you're like 3 mana. It's like a red divination then. But it's not super exciting.
Dude, what is this deck doing if it faces a Bishop of Wings?
I think it depends which Bishop of Wings deck we're talking about. Is it
Like X-File.
the Feathers
X-File
deck?
has... So X-File's playing Feather the Redeemed, Aurelia, Lyra Dawnbringer, Resplendent Angel, and Chalet, Voice of Plenty.
Oh, for sure, this Bishop deck is going to murder that red deck. There's no question. Right, so Bishop of Wings is a 1/4 for WW. Like, first of all, every Fanatical Firebrand and Viashino can just go home, right? Like, they got no business playing against the Bishop of Wings. And then there's that other pesky text. You're like in a lot of trouble, right? So like on turn 2 is Bishop of Wings, turn 3 you can just drop Feather. That's an angel.
Or Resplendent Angel.
Oh yeah, either or.
Well, Resplendent Angel, woo boy. Right, like if Resplendent Angel, you get 4 of the life. I guess you're not really getting that 5th life point anywhere. But
Is there a way to cheat? Aren't there some dual lands that give life?
yeah, but what you can do is, I guess, like what you really do is you just hit them with the 6-cost ability on Resplendent Angel, or alternatively you have 2 Bishop of Wings, or alternatively you put a +1 counter on from Aurelia, Exemplar of Justice, or just +2 from her ability. There's a lot of ways to do it. The thing I'm kind of interested in is this whole 4-tomic Distinguished Advocate.
All right, well, Tomic's got a couple of things going for him, and they're a little subtle. One of them is he's got 3 toughness, right? So with 3
Real subtle.
With 3 toughness, he works okay with Reckless Rage, right? That's like a minimum bar in this deck. Everybody's got Reckless Rage combo built in.
Yeah, but you're playing this guy over 10th District Infantry, right? Or 10th District Legionnaire.
I mean, does he do anything? I mean, how is his...
Everything in your deck flies, so he's contributing to the Skies plan. I don't know. He just seems like kind of an intense 4-of.
Is he good against Nissa?
Lands on the battlefield, can't be the target of spells or abilities. That's super dope. You solved it.
So, like, that's probably
you solved it. You solved it. That's sweet. That's really good tech.
Yeah. All right. This is my new deck. I'm in love with it now.
Dude, what about Simic Flash?
Well, here's the upside of this. I own this whole deck except for the Tomics, and like, I don't know if I own Feather. This is a small way to build a new deck. I'm in.
Do you like this better than like the Black-White Vampires deck that Heroes Downfall was packing with 4 Sorin, Imperious Bloodlord, with an eclectic mix of things to cheat down ahead of schedule, like a Bishop of Rebirth, a Bishop of Rebirth, and Elendra the Dusk Rose, 2 Champion of Dusks, 2 Sanctum Seekers, and 3 Twilight Prophets, and 2 Vona Butcher of Megan.
This deck doesn't really do that much for me. The only thing I would call out is Knight of the Ebon Legion. I think that card is the truth.
I think so too. I think Knight of the Ebon Legion is awesome. I could do okay with Vampire of the Dire Moon. The thing I'm wondering about is how do you get to the space where you're playing with 4 Call to Feast when you can't cheat it down ahead of schedule and you play so many of the things you can? Like, this deck has... So that's 4 4-drops. And then 2 Sorin Vengeful Bloodlord is 6. Bishop of Rebirth is a 5. Champion of Dusk is a 5. Let's see, just in terms of 4s, Alendra, Sanctum Seeker, Twilight Prophet. Like, so that's 12 4-drops. And is that 5 5-drops? How can you do that?
It's a little
this
clunky,
real?
huh?
Is this real?
I don't. This one, it's not doing much for me. I'm gonna summon Tomic, and I'm gonna follow him up with Feather, and my opponent is not gonna be able to use their Nissa. It's gonna be great.
Plus, if you, yeah, I don't know. I just want to play more vampires.
I thought there was a different black white deck. Because actually, I thought was pretty awesome.
You know Mazuku 94.
Yeah, this one I think is sweet.
I think so too. I like Priest of Forgotten Gods a lot. Anyway,
Like this deck has like no spells, right? It's like a removal package is Plague Crafter and Ravenous Chupacabra, but it's alright because it can rebuy with Sorin Vengeful Bloodlord.
but yeah,
Also,
I mean Liliana's pretty good removal.
and Cavalier of Night is sweet in this deck though.
Definitely.
Lifelink. If I have to play
Yeah.
a Warzov deck, it's this one. Like, how ballsy do you have to be? Or actually, what word is it? Like, how like confident do you have to be? You're playing like a straight Orzhov like mid-range creature deck with like a bunch of 187 guys, and Basilica Bellhunt is in your sideboard. Like, like that is a mage who has put their foot down.
Yeah, I mean, normally I would just be all about getting some of those Sorin Vengeful Bloodlords out and getting some Basilica Bellhaunts in. But I think that once you have a legit Priest of Forgotten Gods package, I think Sorin Vengeful Bloodlord get back the Priest of Forgotten Gods is just so unreal. And Cavalier of Night, for that matter, because remember, it's not like they can just let Cavalier of Night live. Right, like, so you play Cavalier of Night, get some value on the way in, sack your Hunted Witness or whatever, and it's not like they can just let it live. It's a 4/5 lifelinker, but if they kill it, you'll just get back Priest of Forgotten Gods immediately.
Oh yeah, and keep in mind Midnight Reaper is just drawing cards all along the time, right? I think that
This deck is really exciting to me.
I think this deck is very good. Oh, it looks very good, I should say. The only thing I would maybe want to change is in the sideboard. I think I must be able to do better than Gutter Bones as a sideboard card.
I was looking at that guy.
Like,
maybe you want Gutter Bones though, because maybe if you're playing against control, what you want is the fast clock, and you have all these tokens to get him back pretty easily. I bet Gutter Bones is decent, because I bet this deck straight up is real bad against control, and the package of 4 Duress, 4 Gutter Bones that's interesting.
would you rather have Gutter Bones than like, what's that enchantment that's like black and 1? Pay 2 life, draw a card.
Yes, I would rather have Gutter Bones. You always like that, and it's always so slow and painful. And no, I want Gutter Bones.
It's very medium. Like that's like the most medium part.
It's only barely medium.
What about the enchantment that's like black, white 1, and then you can kill things, and it flips over when you kill 3 things?
Yeah, but I think you want to be faster than like. I love a good profane, but like I think you want to be faster with a deck like this, because I think what you really want is to duck under them. Like people that you're just grinding, like that card is like a 1-card grind engine, right?
Yeah, I love it.
But this deck is all grinding already.
Do you think this deck has like a decent matchup against the elemental decks? Or you can just kill their elementals, right? And like buy back your guys that kill things?
Sort of. I mean, I think that the lack of removal is going to be costly, because it's not like a deck with a bunch of edicts really wants to play against the Arboreal Grazer.
Yeah, I think that in my revision potentially of Mizuku 94's deck, in addition to maybe not playing Gutter Bones, I think I might like deign to play some kind of Doomblade or Terror, maybe a Vraska's Contempt of some kind. Like the lack of point removal spells is in black white. Maybe a prison realm, right? Like this deck just does not have any way to deal with common problems, and I think that it could do better from that front. Like I don't know, when would I ever want to side in God Eternal Bantu? Like
I never do.
I'm just not.
I
Into that
never do. I'm not into it. So there's a deck that it does not appear in the standard leagues that it wasn't invented until this week. Dude, Embodiment of Agonies with Kalia. I think this is actually the next big thing. So Kalia is red, white, black for a 3/3 legendary human cleric, 3/3 flying vigilance. And when Kalia enters the battlefield, you look at the top 6 in your library, and you get a demon, a dragon, and an angel, and you put the rest on the bottom. So can we agree that if you draw a card with your 3/3 flying vigilance for 3, you're doing pretty good?
We can agree.
So what you need are a critical mass of demons, dragons, and angels that are good. Embodiment of Agonies is a game changer among demons. Embodiment of Agonies, I think, is just like it's just an excellent card anyway. So Embodiment of Agonies is the 1 black 0/0 flying death touch. It gets a number. It enters the battlefield with a number of +1/+1 counters on it for each different mana cost. So there's a lot of nuance to Embodiment of Agonies. Like, for instance, when you Discovery Dispersal, do you even know what Discovery Dispersal's cost is?
Is it 7?
It's actually 4 blue-black Dimir. Because it's not going on converted mana cost, it's going on cost.
Oh, so
it counts as a 4 blue-black Dimir. So your Bedeck Bedazzle counts as a 4 black-red Rakdos. And the ability to just play such a diverse mix of costs, you don't really have to play both sides. You can just be using Bedeck Bedazzle as a black -3, +3 -3. And you could just be using Discovery Dispersal as a colorless and a black Surveil 2 draw card, right? And it's not like surveilling is a bad thing to be doing anyway, because you want to stock the graveyard anyway, so your Embodiment of Agonies comes down bigger.
Yeah, for a graveyard-dependent creature.
I think it's just so easy to make Embodiment of Agonies a 5/5 or a 6/6 flying death touch early. And even if you don't have it, if you just have to throw it out there on the backup plan, it has death touch at least.
I mean, do you want to play like a second color or even a third color?
I want to play third. I want to play Kalia.
So, I mean, you can start with a shock, right? You like shock their guy, and then turn to surveil.
Yeah, but I think you can go further. See, I want to play 1 shock, 1 Dispark, 1 Carnival Carnage, 1 Bedeck Bedazzle, 1 Justice Strike, 1 Moment of Craving, 1 Angras Rampage, 1 Discovery Dispersal, at least 1 Duress, 1 Revival Revenge, 1 Tormenting Void. You see what I mean? Like, if you just play with like all sorts of different costs, it's not like the difference between all these 2-cost removal spells is a very big deal. And if you just have all of them with different costs, it's going to be so easy to make the Embodiment of Agonies humongous.
So, but you play 4 of the Kalia and you play 4 Embodiment of Agonies, right?
Yeah, I don't know that you need any 4 ofs besides those 2, because so for other demons, the most notable other demon you could play is Doom Whisperer. Doom Whisperer, the ability to just flip your deck. Now, it's not the right order. You have to have the Doom Whisperer already in play, but if you play a Doom Whisperer, even if they kill it, the Embodiment of Agonies you play next turn is going to be enormous.
You just have a great setup, man, sure.
And then you have Doom Whisperer and Embodiment of Agonies as potential demon hits. For dragons, well, I'll get to dragons in a second. For angels, you have all the options in the world. Feather the Redeemed or Resplendent Angel are like just great cards. And then and I don't think you have to try with all the feather stuff. You can just play a variety, and it's not like you have any other white, red costs in your deck. But part of the reason I like Feather more, by the way, than Resplendent Angel is that I think that Deafening Clarion is going to be so good of a card for this deck.
So you just want to make sure that you've got the toughness required.
Right. And then you can there's a variety of other angel options, like Aurelia, Chalet, Voice of Plenty, Seraph of the Scales. You've got a lot of great options there. And then Dragons is a little tough. You see, part of the reason I didn't mention Lyra Dawnbringer earlier is that Doom Whisperer is like the only other really legit good demon besides Embodiment of Agonies. I guess you could play with that the 4/4 flyer that you can play for 3. I guess you could play that guy. But you get a little crowded at the 5 spot, and Lyra Dawnbringer or Angel of Grace, their value over the other angels like Aurelia or Feather or Seraph or whatever is just not that big of a difference. Whereas, what other dragons do you even want besides Skargan Hellkite? Unless you somehow can pull off the mana to support Elder Dragon Legends.
Yeah, I mean, obviously in a world of unlimited colors, Bolas is just an outstanding card and you'd play 4. But he's probably pretty hard to swing in your Mardu deck.
Maybe. Yeah, it would depend.
What do you just need to do? You just add in blue?
I don't know, man. I already feel like I don't want my lands coming into play tapped in this deck.
Yeah. And also, I mean, obviously he's better, but he's not that much better than just Aurelia, right? Aurelia is a pretty significant threat.
Right. Yeah, or Seraph of the Scales for that matter. But I think it's important to know you want to play a spread of demons and dragons and angels because, if you just go all angels or something, when you look at your top 6 with Kalia, you can only take 1 card. Whereas, it's so much better to have an angel and a demon than to have 2 angels.
Also,
right?
Not for nothing, but if you can keep them guessing, it's going to impact your opponent's ability to make the right plays, right? If all of your cards are super consistent, then they're going to be they're never going to have to play around a Doom Whisperer at 5 if you don't have any, right? If you're all Lyras for sake of argument, right? How would you just prioritize 5s in the abstract? Lyra is really strong, probably stronger than Skargan Hellkite. Both of them are stronger than Doom Whisperer. I'm just making this up.
Yeah, but I would generally, in this deck, lead with the Hellkites and then maybe a Doom Whisperer or 2. Because I think that there's just no other dragons that I really want. I mean, I guess you could play the 4/4 dragon for 4 that has kicker.
So, but my point is your priorities will change in a deck like this, and one of the bonuses to that is that your play becomes unpredictable for the opponent, which I think is a
oh yeah. Well, and part of that is the fact that if you're playing a mix of Bedeck, Bedazzle, Carnival Carnage, Despark, Justice Strike, Moment of Craving, Mortify, Shock, Angress, Rampage, Kaya's Wrath, Deafening Clarion, whatever, right? Revival Revenge. You just have so many things they can't play around them all. But also, on the note of Revival Revenge, this deck actually has some sweet 3s. When your deck has Kalia and Embodiment of Agonies, the revival part of Revival Revenge is very attractive.
Wow.
You could I could even imagine a world where you're doing stuff maybe it's not the Kalia version, but if you're playing Stitcher's Supplier on turn 1, and you might just end up revivaling Embodiment of Agonies on the 2nd turn. I don't know. It's not that big, but it's a start.
I mean, but it's a thing you can do. The revenge side is going to be pretty exciting, though, right?
oh yeah,
because you got a little initiative from your good flyers.
Yeah, well, plus you could just revenge and then hit them, and that'd be it. If you just have an embodiment in play. I think that part of the real takeaway here, though, is how few demons and dragons and angels you actually really need. If you just had, say for instance that you had and I don't think this is the right mix, but let's just say you had 5 demons, 5 dragons, and 5 angels, right? Like 4 Embodiment of Agonies and a Doom Whisperer, and the whatever mix of dragons and angels you could pull off. If you had just 5 of each, you're actually about 43% to hit each of those types. So you're going to be drawing almost a card. You're going to be drawing more than a card and a quarter each time you Kalia, and with selection. You know, like, as long as you play 4 of each, you're still even if you only play 3 of each, you're close to a card. Once you're at the spot, if you as long as you play 4 copies, like 4 dragons, 4 angels, and 4 demons, you're averaging a full extra card. That's so little of an ask. The real thing is you got to make the mana work, but.
Oh, I think that's doable. I mean, this deck is going to definitely play Evolving Wilds, right?
I don't know. If you play 3 colors, don't you just want to play like all Blood Crypts and Dragon Skull Summits and Godless Shrine and Isolated Chapel?
Don't you get a
and
bonus for Embodiment of Agonies?
No. Non-lane cards.
Oh, all right.
Sorry.
There you go.
Sorry, bro.
I thought that was going to be a freebie.
No. Good idea, though. I like where your head's at.
Well, not if it doesn't work.
No, you're just thinking, you're asking the right questions. That's a lot of deck building, is even when you get the wrong answers, initially, if you ask the right questions, then at least you know the truth, you know, about what matters. Like, there is one other dragon, though, that I think is just, man, it's probably too ambitious. But if Kalia goes and finds you Niv Mizzet Reborn,
that is
man.
Ambitious. That is
ambitious. Man. Do you think you could play Kalia Zenith Seeker in Modern?
No. I was like, no. No. Dude, they have Lightning Bolt in Modern.
So you don't like any changelings?
Not enough.
What about Sarah, the Time Spiral one, the 2-drop?
Ooh, Sarah Avenger?
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't mind that.
That's a pretty good one, right?
Yeah, that's a very good one. What about Drakuseth Maw of Flames? That's a dragon.
Yeah, I don't know. Doesn't that cost like a bazillion?
It costs 7, but this thing messes you up. It's a 7/7 for 7, and it has like insane text. It's like
if it lives. Wait, if your 7-drop just lives?
It doesn't have haste either.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm not like... I'm thinking that in Modern, though, maybe you can play with a cheap enough mix of cards. Like, for instance, Rakshas the Death Dealer is a demon for 2 that's like, you know, that's okay.
Yeah, but the mana is super challenging, and the demon is going the wrong direction. Like, I feel like you want to chain upwards. Right? Like, maybe I'm just wrong. I mean... Because I guess Sarah Avenger...
Do you like Amid Eternal? It's not going up, but at least it's staying even.
No, I'm not into it.
No? What was the deal with why Sarah's Avenger? Like, why are you into that one?
Because it's just like it's pretty significant. It's cheap. I mean, I guess Rakshasa Death Dealer is about the same from that perspective.
What about Emancipation Angel or Restoration Angel? Like, Restoration Angel blinking Kalia seems amazing.
Oh yeah, Restoration Angel is fantastic. If you're, I have a hard time believing that we're just gonna pay 3 and 4 mana like fair spells, right? Like, that doesn't seem to me like the direction that Modern is going. Now I understand they just banned Bridge from Below, but like I mean, can you imagine a deck like that standing up against Azorius Control? Like, you're...
Restoration Angel's pretty good.
Yeah. I guess... I don't know.
You're not buying it?
No. Like, they have, like, Cryptic Command and stuff like that in Modern. I think, like, Lightning Bolt is really the reason why I don't want to play her. It's just too much mana for what's going to happen to it.
Yeah, but you're drawing a card on the way in.
You
or
might
2.
be drawing a card on the way in.
Oh, I am.
All right, I got that you are.
Any other decks you wanted? other decks or cards? I mean, we've talked about a million things already today.
I'm already racking up my tab to buy infinity new decks.
Dude, Unsettled Mariner. That's a dragon. You know, I mean, it's a changeling, I guess, but
Yeah, I was like, it's not a standard dragon, right?
no, I'm just talking about a modern, man. I just want to go off with Kalia.
I think this might be a Michael J level terrible idea.
Nice.
I am going to go try the Feather deck with Tomic, the Simic deck with the Wolf guy, and the Simic Omniscience deck, and those are going to be my immediate purchases for
My first two decks I'm working on are definitely the Simic Ambush deck, and Kalia. Kalia with Embodiment of Agonies.
All right.
But I'm gonna have my eye on some sort of mediocre minus Orzhov mid-range deck. I just have never lost a match with Temple of Silence in my life. I just gotta keep running that one back.
Oh, that's true. Oh my gosh. It really is true. Do they give you like a 3/3 for 2 also?
Dude, it's tough though because you can't use the Temple of Silence to cast it. I love the troll, but it's GG, and it's real tough. But I could be Temple of Maladies into the troll. That sounds alright to me.
You could do that. All right. You probably win in the next Pro Tour.
I love it. Yeah. Well, not the next one. The next one's modern. But
win them both.
Love it. All right. See you next week.
In life didn't work so great. Tried to play Dredge, so jailer hate. Ghostly prison waiting for my untapped phase. Your core trapped in amber stasis state. Lost a lot of friends, got left behind. Had to find a way not to lose my mind. Trapped in a